Hey guys, welcome back once again. This time we're going to look at a plugin called Beat Repeat. This is a really old plugin. I think it's several years old, but nobody seems to use it for some reason. So I've created a little project thingy here, and I've got a loop on one channel, which is this thing here. And we're going to go up to Audio Effects and pull down Beat Repeat. So let's have a quick squiz at the user interface. Zoom in here. And what we've got, there's several controls here to manipulate a repetitive pattern, or it's almost like a glitch effect, like that D-Blue glitch, and there's a few other plugins that we use for that kind of thing. But this is dedicated just to repeating and glitching little sections of incoming audio. So we've got a main window at the top here, and the main window shows us what size of loop we're working with, how often the repeats are, how big the repeats are, that kind of thing. So the first control here, interval, this will let you define what this window is representing. So at the moment it's representing a quarter note. So the repeats are going to happen every quarter note, which is possibly a little bit too often, but you can go down to silly 30-second notes. So the repeats are happening every half a 16th note, which would be madness. And you can go up to 4 bars. I actually usually use either 1 bar or 2 bars. So if we set it to 1 bar, for example, it's showing us 1 bar's worth of information here. So your kick would be here on 0, here, here, and here. The next control allows you to set the offset, and this is what point in this bar the repeats will start happening. So at the moment, the repeats, which start on the left-hand side of this yellow segment here, the repeats are starting on the first beat of the bar. So your first kick in a bar, for example, the repeats would start there. But you can actually move that anywhere you want along this timeline, even wrapping round. The next one is the size of the repeats. This grid represents the size of the repeats. So if we have it set to 16th notes, even if you've got a kick drum, for example, hitting every beat of the bar, so 4 times a bar, the repeats of the kick, or imagine it as a delay line, the repeats are 16th notes long. I mean, you'll actually hear it. It'd be easier to hear it a bit later on. And then you can actually set that to 12th and 24th notes and thirds. But what you can do if you want, you can apply this button underneath saying no triplets. So you'll be stuck with, or set it to, notes on the beat. Repeats will be on the beat, so it'll be half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16 notes, that kind of thing. But I actually find it more interesting to have that switch off. And then we have variation here. The variation dial allows you to apply varying amounts of variation to this parameter. So these two are kind of locked together a little bit. So if you have it set to 16ths and you have variation set to 10, it's going to randomize this grid size up and down quite a lot. And then if you, let's get it back to 16ths. If you have this set to 0, it's always going to hit on 16ths. And underneath the variation button, you've got a little drop-down box which allows you to use different kind of timings for that variation. You can have it set to quarter, eighth, or 16th. Automatic will set a new random variation after each repetition. So it can end up being quite complicated and sounding quite nice. Let's set that back to trigger for now. Right, coming down here to chance. This allows you to apply how much chance that these repeats will happen on the settings you've got at the top here. So if it's set to 100%, these settings here at the top will always apply to each beat. If you have it set down to 0, it'll never happen. So this is effectively turning off. This is almost like a dry wet knob, but not really like a dry wet knob. It just allows you to select a percentage chance of your settings at the top here actually happening. All right, so I would usually have that set to 100%, but not always. The gate function allows you to define how many repeats you want. So if we move this offset back to here. So at the moment, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, as it says here. 8 repeats of the incoming audio are going to happen, or you can set that to 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever you want. You can even set it up to 4 bars long, even if your interval is actually set to 1 bar. I'm not sure how that will work. I've never done that. Well, we can try it. But I'll just keep it to 8 for now. What was it set at? 7, 8? I don't know. 8 will do. And then finally over here, we've got a pitch section. What this allows you to do, it just allows you to reduce the pitch. You can't pitch up or down. You can only pitch down up to an octave. So you've got 12 semitones. So if you set this to -8, this will allow you to apply a pitch change to your repeated beats. Okay, worth playing around with this. And then over here on pitch decay, if you increase this, what this does is it kind of applies an envelope to this parameter here, in that each pitch that happens, repeat that happens, will be pitched down slightly. So you get kind of a falling effect, but we'll hear that in action in a minute. Then over to this section, we've got a filter, same kind of filter you get on ping pong delay. So it works in the same way. This filters the affected sound only. It doesn't filter the incoming audio as well. And then down here, we've got 3 options here. Mix will mix the incoming audio with the affected audio. Then we've got insert mode, which mutes the incoming audio when the affected audio is sounding. So what happens is you'll hear the incoming audio. We'll listen to this in action in a second. You'll hear the incoming audio, but when the audio is affected, or the controls that you've set here are applied to the incoming audio, it will mute the incoming audio and you'll only be able to hear the affected audio. And then you've got gate, which means you will only hear the affected audio. The incoming audio will be muted. So you could use this on a send channel, for example. Then you've got an output volume, which sets the volume of the repetitions. It kind of works like a dry wet knob, more than Chance does, actually. I was talking nonsense about that. It kind of works as a dry wet knob, but it only affects the volume of the repetitions, not of the incoming audio. And then we've got a decay parameter, which I think should be over here somewhere, but it's not. And what that does, it allows you to apply volume decay to your repeats. So instead of them all being the same volume, it allows you to decay them over time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reinitialize this now. And let's have a listen to it. Let's switch it off and let's have a listen to my incoming audio here. So it's just a very simple loop. Now, the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to set the interval at 1 bar, and then we need to apply the offset. And this is going to be the point at which the repeats or the repetitions are applied to. So at the moment, let's have a look at it. If we set it here, this is going to hit on the first beat of the bar, or rather the second beat of the bar, sorry. So let's have a look at our audio. So we're going to set this to 16th notes, which it already is. This is our first beat. This is our second beat. Okay. So this is where the plugin is set to hit here, and there's not really a lot going on here. So we're not going to hear much. So let's have a look at the sample, and let's see what intervals we've got samples at. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and then on the third beat of the bar, 1, 2, 3, third 16th note, we've got a hit. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this to 3/16. Okay. So each little segment here represents one of these segments here. All right. So we need to find out there's one here, and one here, and that's when our sample starts. So we're going to set this to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3/16 as well. Otherwise, we wouldn't hear anything. So let's have a quick listen to that. So it's this little piece of sample here that's being repeated. But as it is now, it's not very interesting. So we can change the grid size. All right, let's just change the variation on that, because at the moment it's just hitting at 16th notes every time, which is quite tedious. So let's have a bit of variation to this. So you can hear that every time that the plugin is repeating or it's giving us repetitions on this little snippet of sample, the grid size is changing, but it's still a little bit static for me. So I'm going to come down to the trigger mode and set it to auto, which is going to vary the variation a little bit. Okay, that's a little bit more interesting still. And then chance, we're going to leave it 100% because I want every repeat to be repeated. And then let's set the gate to 8. Should we have 8 repeats? Yeah, 8 repeats sounds good. And then let's pull the pitch down a little bit. Actually, you know what? I might pull this chance down a little bit so that we don't get hit every time. This will still be most of the time, but not all of the time. And then let's apply some pitch decay. And what you'll hear here is the repetitions will be pitched down. There's like an envelope applied to the pitch, and you'll hear them pitch down. And then I'm going to filter out the repetitions. And then instead of mix mode, which gives you the incoming audio and the affected audio, I'm going to switch it over to the insert mode. So what this is going to do, you'll hear the incoming loop. When the repetitions are applied, the incoming loop is muted, and then the incoming loop is unmuted when the repetitions aren't sounding. And then obviously you can use gate if you had it on a send channel, but that's just going to mute all of the incoming audio. So you just hear the effects. And we don't want that. And then just put some decay. I'm just going to put some decay on this, which means that the repetitions are going to decay in volume as each one sounds out. It's going to get a little bit quieter, which I prefer. And one thing I quite like doing as well is applying a delay line to these beat repeats, because it actually sounds quite interesting. So let's just do that quickly. But we're not talking about that here. That actually gets quite busy in a mix, but it's worth experimenting with because it can sound quite cool sometimes. So what I've done is, let's just mute this channel for a second. I've got a little loopy thing going on. Let's just have a listen to the kick and bass. So just something fairly straightforward. And then I've put a couple of loops in a group. Let's just play them one at a time with beat repeat switched off. And I've put some EQ on there because there's a ton of bottom end in this one. And then I've just messed around with these settings, and let's just have a listen to what beat repeat's doing to this. So I've got this pan left a little bit, and then I've got another loop here. And again, I've got some, let's turn beat repeat off. I've just done the same kind of EQ because there's too much bottom end, because I've got quite a busy kick and bass line going on. We don't want any bass in the loops whatsoever. So I'll just clean that up, and let's hear what I've done with beat repeat. Oh, by the way, both these loops are going over to Valhalla Vintage Verb, just a little bit of send, just to give them a little bit of space. So let's hear what I've done with beat repeat this time. Actually, I might filter that out a bit more. So both together. And then the whole thing. Let's just switch off beat repeat with everything playing, so you can hear it just adds so much more interest. It's a really interesting plugin. I mean, it sounds alright, but you know, nothing special. And then turn them back on again. Yeah, I've never played with this plugin before. I was using, I think I was picking up AutoPan or something. I was picking up something around here, and I picked up beat repeat by mistake, in fact, and pulled it onto a channel. I thought, oh, that's quite cool. So yeah, definitely worth playing with this one. I never used it in my entire time of using Ableton, which is years now. So it's worth having a look at. So I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting, and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content. And if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.